Welcome, everybody. This is session 2 of Find the Link Fertility series. And today we are taking a very interesting topic, egg freezing and egg donation. Last week, we had a topic with our speaker, who is Mrs. Busolami Jeremiah Yusuf. She was talking about IVF, and the topic was assisted reproduction, an overview. So today we're going to be talking about egg freezing and egg donation. It's a bit of a topical topic at this time and quite interesting. I would like to hear your views and questions. In fact, people had already started asking questions on the topic from last week. So I'm hoping it's going to be quite interesting. Busolami, are you ready for us?
Yes, I'm going to turn on my video in a couple of minutes. Just give me a second.
Okay, fine. All right. This is also on YouTube Live for those that are not able to join on the Zoom, but we do like people joining on the Zoom so that we can interact a bit more. So yes, this is going to be interesting. So Find the Link started in 2020 with Find the Link Relationship series with 10 weeks about relationships. Those are on the YouTube channel called Temitope Present Child, if someone wants to pop into the YouTube channel. And in 2021, we had Find the Link Parenting, and both series birthed some groups which are on WhatsApp, in which we discuss from time to time. So we've had Find the Link Relationships, we've had Find the Link Parenting, now we're having Find the Link Fertility. We know fertility is quite an important topic all over the world, but especially in Africa, where we are from, yours truly. Some of us are happy to claim Africa anytime. My people say, where are you from? I don't bother to give any excuse. I just say I'm from Nigeria. If you said otherwise, they will say, where are you from originally? So there's no point. Just say where you're from. I'm proud of who you are. Okay, Busolami, you're muted though.
Yeah, yes, I am. I do want the background noise, but
okay.
You're ready. I'm ready when you're ready.
Okay, all right. So this is Mrs. Busolami Jeremiah Yusuf. She's a fertility nurse with over 10 years experience dealing with fertility cases in the course of her work. Has worked in Nigeria and is presently working in the UK, still doing the same things relating to fertility. So it's something she's passionate about, I believe. I hope you came with your Yoruba cap today and you're able to.
I'm not sure.
You're not sure.
On, but let's see how it works.
All right. Okay. I was hoping that at some point, especially maybe towards the end of the meeting, we'll be able to interpret for those that do not understand Yoruba so that we're not speaking above their heads. And had some requests from someone that didn't understand what we were saying, but knew it was important and said he really wished he could understand. So I said, oh, well, maybe there are people like him that didn't understand the language and it would be good to interpret a little bit. Okay. So if you have any comments, questions, please put it in the chat box. And I would be handing over to Busolami now. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, it's afternoon, it's evening. Wherever you are in the world, it's somewhere past morning, but good day, everyone. To put everyone in the picture. Nice to see you today. I hope you had a good time. I hope your day has been restful and it has been productive. It's a Saturday, so everyone likes to do everything they have to do today. Okay, so welcome to today's session. Last week, we spoke a lot.
Looks like the screen is frozen for a little bit. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, looks like she's had to log out briefly. So, 1 minute. Josh will be joining us shortly. Sorry about the delay. One of the issues with technology. Always have to keep adjusting all the time. I'm not getting phased when things like this happen. Thank you for your patience. So she's trying to join us at the moment. So I'll just take some comments from the house while we wait. I'll take whoever is ready, whether it's Titi or Sister Dupe. What would you say your expectations are about today? Or what would we say we know about egg freezing and egg donation? Anybody who's ready? You can mute yourselves. Yes, Titi, you're ready. Let's hear you. Hello, Titi, I can see you've unmuted yourself, but I can't hear you.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yes.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Okay, so I do not know much about egg freezing. I'm hoping that I learn something new today and also know the type of options that I have as a mature single.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing. Sister Dikwa, would you want to tell us your thoughts about egg freezing, egg donation, what you know about it?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Personally, thank you for putting up this series. Personally, I think this is for me, I think this topic should be discussed more among women, especially when even from a very young age. People should be, I think we need to talk about this more, increase the awareness, because for me, if most people don't really know about it unless they're going through fertility issues, that's when they now get to know about things like this. So I think the awareness is very, very important, and we don't need to wait till when you have fertility issues to now start discussing it. It should be something that should be a topic that should be discussed from a very early age, that women are aware. And then you start, because if you're aware and then the moment you start going through delays in like having children, then you start to think about things like this. That's my own. So for me, I'm hoping to learn a lot from this discussion.
Okay, so you sound like someone who has an idea or some experience with it. What are your thoughts so far? about people who have tried this kind of thing?
My thought is, if you, for example, if you've frozen your egg at a very early stage, and if you're having fertility issues, then if you want to go for things like IVF, then at least you're using your own egg. But whereas if you haven't frozen your egg and you're at a matured age, then and you want to go for things like IVF, the doctors or medical practitioners, they don't really encourage you to use your own egg, and they would, from my own experience, advise that you use a donor egg. So in a way, I just feel like you feel, personally, I feel like the person, you feel cheated, because you're not using, even though you're going to eventually have that child through the egg or whatever you've used, the option you've gone for. But if you're not using your own egg, you kind of feel cheated in a way, because the child is not biologically yours. Whereas if you're frozen your egg, there's higher chances that, your IVF could be successful and the child is biologically yours.
Okay. Right. Thank you for sharing your thoughts about that.
Yeah.
I'll just take a comment from a gentleman. There are not very many gentlemen here, but let's hear from him. Dr. Ajibola Umulade, can we hear your thoughts about egg donation and egg freezing before we continue? Are you there? Are you able to speak at all? Okay, maybe he's busy. I'm actually surprised he joined. He's a very busy person. Okay, but anyway, I'm happy that we're all here and our speaker is back. So I'm sure she'll be able to throw more light on these things. Of course, sometimes there's the issue of egg donation comes at a cost. What is the eventual percentage of that it would be useful at the end of the day, and things like that. But it is an option, and it's an option that many people are deciding to consider. I guess it's also important to talk about the fact that the motivation behind it, are people freezing eggs because it is in vogue? Is it because it's popular? Is it out of anxiety and things like that? Of course, Find the Link is founded on biblical beliefs, so we are people of faith mostly, even though we accept all people and love everyone, but that's our foundation. So we believe that God can do all things, but we also know that science is given to us for a reason, and within the limits of ethics and morality and the will of God mostly, we can consider other options. Maybe I'll just throw a bit of light on it. Initially, the issues regarding egg freezing was mainly for those that were going to war, women that were going to war and could come back maimed in some way, and they encouraged them to freeze their eggs before going to war because they were going to places of conflict. But now it's a bit more popular in most countries, including Nigeria, including the United Kingdom and other places in the world. People do egg freezing. And there are young people that do egg donation as well, which I'm believing our speaker would also touch on. And egg donation is usually done by young ladies who consider it an easy form of making an income, hundreds of thousands, to donate their eggs or to do an egg donation. Okay, so back to you, Busalame.
Yeah, thank you very much. Sorry about the interruption. Something just happened and I just thought I was talking to my screen alone. All right, so I heard the comments and I really agree with the first bit, Wadikwe Ajayi, talking about younger people, because initially I was wondering, kind of people are going to be here. And then when I came in, I saw a young lady's picture and I was okay, a young person is here. That's quite interesting because a reactive
approach. Was it my picture?
No, I think I can see Titi Oyemade. She looks young in my face. I mean, she looks young to me. I'm like, okay, yeah, quite interesting. And the reason is because in the issues of fertility, you cannot have, what we find ourselves in Nigeria and most part of the world is a reactive approach. There's no proactive approach because information is not really that readily available. It's not everywhere. It's not copious as you would get for contraceptives, as you would get for other things. But I mean, when fertility issues come, and that's when the woman wakes up, like, oh my God, time is gone, and what have I done? And she feels that she has wasted her time, and all the guilt and all of that comes in. And then she's left with very zero or no chance. And of course, like she said, there's a risk to feel cheated. Like, what have I done? I haven't made all the money, done all the career. What do you get for it? So I looked and I just figured out that it's important that at least from here, we start the information, we get to know, and we get to know, and then we also are able to respond correctly. And we are able to respond correctly. My video keeps going off and on. Okay, I think it's better now. And we get to respond correctly. So basically, the issues of egg donation and egg freezing, I'm just going to touch on it briefly. And most of the conversations we'll be having is going to be questions and answers. Why? Because we must meet our needs readily here and then take something back to inform whoever we know. Yeah, that's what I thought about, because having the information, you probably have thought if I had it some 10 years ago, it would have been useful. What are you going to do with it now? So want an information that is really useful to you, and then something you can take back for your people around you to influence them and help them to make a decision. Okay, so I'm not going to talk too much, because when it comes to adopting using a donor egg, it's very difficult for most women, very hard. I'm like, why do I have to do this? And it's very emotional. Some people are stuck there for a long time. Many people are able to make their decisions quickly and move on, but they still feel this child is not genetically mine. It's just my husband and somebody that I do not know. And it's just deeply painful. And it can also affect the way a woman will receive a child. And this child is going to grow up to be a member of the society. And if this woman has had a biological child before, and you have a sibling that is not, it's a problem in the home. She just there's this thing, it just happens in the house. And then it's quite hard. And the child doesn't know anything, is totally unaware about what is going on. And this can go on for years. And eventually the child finds out, that can be a problem. So, but it's good that we have younger siblings. We have in our minds, we can also help people and give them information and direct them accordingly so that they can make a better decision. Okay, so I'm just going to eat on it quite quickly, and I'll finish my presentation very fast so that we can have enough time to answer questions and be able to, really touch most of the questions on most people's minds. I know there are doctors in the house, so I'm going to be helped when I need help. All right, so I'm just going to share my screen in a bit. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, super. Right, so okay, so egg donation and then egg freezing. So just take them one after the other, and the end we'll just wrap it up. So basically, egg donation is a legal process, and then they have to make it clear that it is legal. It's not any organ harvesting that is trending these days. Egg donation is a legal process in which a fertile woman donates an egg or an oocyte to another woman to help her conceive, simply for the process of IVF, not any other. That's the only method that this recipient of the eggs can conceive. Egg donation is a wonderful gift and a very generous and a courageous thing to do. Yes, most people do it for different reasons. In the United Kingdom, it's done for altruistic reasons. You must be able to, it's something noble to do for somebody. Either the person is paying you or not paying you. There's no amount of money you can pay an egg donor that is enough. Some people can't even give their blood to another person, let alone give in a reproductive material. So whoever is going to be donating the eggs, either anonymous or non-anonymous, is a very courageous thing to do. And we must see it in that light. The people that the young ladies that donate for material, for money reasons, it's not a fun thing to do. I don't know if anybody likes to inject themselves with injections for about 2 weeks and then go on that station. That's some scary things one can experience. But you do that for money, but they have at the back of their minds that somebody cannot have a child and they have more than enough. They can always do it. But behind all of these things, it must be seen as a gift, because something you don't have and someone gives to you, no matter how much you pay for it, you may not have had the privilege to find the person who's going to do it. So it's a very courageous thing to do. So whoever we find doing egg donation, we must pat the person at the back, forget about the money, and make the person know you're doing a very noble thing. You don't care how much the person is paying you. So to give a material to someone, to share what you have with another person, knowing well that the person will carry your genetic code to wherever you don't know and you can't even control, is such a courageous thing to do. All right. And why do people need donated eggs? For so many reasons. Some women have congenital anomalies. I promise not to use big grammars. I do a lot of talking to clients, and then they have to use very simple terms. So forgive me for that. For some women who are born without ovaries, ovaries are where we ovulate from, but some people do not have ovaries naturally, the way they were born. And they want to have children. They are human beings. They think, they have values, they have cultures, they have beliefs, and they have a need. And it's a desire to reproduce and have a child. And they would need another person to give them products of gametes that they can use to produce children. And then some are born without ovaries, and then they will need to donate eggs to them. And the women who have tumors in their ovaries, some cyst formation, a condition called endometriosis, where the tissues of the lining of the womb is found in the ovaries and makes it difficult for the eggs to produce. And even if it produces, you just find blood and all forms of things inside, and there are no eggs. It's not allowing the eggs to produce, and it's very difficult to manage around the world. So those women will need eggs. Okay, when there is also a premature ovarian failure, some women attain menopause very early. I've seen a 25-year-old woman attain menopause. It's quite emotional. A 30-year-old woman finds out she's got into menopause. She stopped ovulating, her ovaries are failed at the earliest age of her life. She wants to have children. There's an alternative. So we may have people in our homes, people in our families, our neighbors, our friends, who have whispered these things in our ears. Many of us, our attitude, or many of our parents' attitudes, in quotes, makes them feel as if they're outcast. And that's the bias that we must stop. That's the bias that this kind of teaching, this kind of exposure is helping us to put a stop to in our society. Whoever has a condition is not a death sentence. It is just a challenge to overcome. And that's what information and knowledge will do. And God is the source of all knowledge. So wherever it's coming from, it has been opened from the mind of God to humans so that we can use to solve our problems. Okay, so when a woman attains early menopause, she would need legitimately, she would need donated eggs. And when a woman is carrying an abnormal gene, there's some genetic materials that is consistent in a particular gene. For example, when cystic fibrosis, that sounds like a big grammar. Some people have blood clotting issues, and these things can be in the genes, and you can see the traces. I know that this person has the things, and we want to stop it. We don't want it to happen. We have to introduce another kind of gene, and that's the way to introduce one. Okay, so we need to have donated eggs so that can stop. There's some other genetic conditions that are in the particular genes of a woman that is noted, and then that's to stop. And there's some particular kind of ovaries or eggs that a woman produces that cannot even fertilize. The sperms cannot fertilize it for whatever reason. I haven't tried everything over and over again. The eggs look very, the structure doesn't look like it should. It can't, she ovulates normally, everything looks okay. But when you look at the structure of the eggs, they're looking very strange. Like, this can't produce a child. If it produces a child, something else may go wrong. And then she'll have to be introduced to another therapist. So this is what you can do. All right, and there's also there are some ovaries that cannot produce, some eggs that cannot be produced into normal embryos, and the same thing also happens to men. So let's not think it's only the women that have all the issues of the world. The same things happen to men. Some sperms are really bad. Some sperms are not, like we spoke last week, and haven't done genetic testing to find out that this is the problem. And there has to be a change. There has to be an introduction of a donor in some way. Like I said earlier, organ donation can be anonymous or non-anonymous. So anonymous means that, of course, you don't know the person, you don't even know where the person is from, you just have the profile, and then you can choose to see this is what I want, this is what I do not want. Okay, this can work for me. I like the color, I like the eye color, I like the skin color, I like the eyes, I like the hair, I like this, I like this, I like that. Okay, but there's of course some things are negotiable. Women have to negotiate the most important from the not so important, like a must have to a nice to have. For example, I've seen women who say, I want my donor to be a university graduate. And I'm like, okay, how do you want to go and recruit a university graduate? Because you have to be sure that intelligence and IQ is what you put, is you can grow that. There's an IQ, you have to, it's not a test. Yes, education is one thing that can enhance it, but some people who haven't gone to school are quite intelligent if they're given the opportunities to. So you cannot judge because the person hasn't gone to university. What if the person's brain did not have enough money to send the person to university? It doesn't mean that the person is not intelligent. So all of these things have to be looked at. Behaviors as well are what we put in children. I want the person to be prim and proper. I want the person to know how to speak good English. You can't control that. Some people speak another language and they are fantastic in learnings. Their brain picks up fast. But how do you test these things? Are the challenges that women experience in having to pick a donor? Which no kind of donor do I use, even though they see the profile and they can then buy from a bank, because there's some eggs that are stored in banks and they are profiled. So you just check the profile, see the color, see the race, and then you can pick and then you can buy they're already frozen. You just cryopreserved, not like freezing in the fridge, but is preserved already. Okay, and then you can buy from the bank and they tell you this is what you buy and then you can always use. All right, so these are the reasons why women will do this. But the part of the country, I'm going to use Nigeria as an example, most of the egg donors are anonymous donors, one, and they recruit them on the spot, like they were going to give them medications, and all the eggs they produce belong to a particular recipient. Sometimes they share them amongst people just to make sure that the funds for women can't pay as much to be able to manage the expenses. And some people don't mind anything works, that anything works is quite a dangerous place to be, because you don't just want to have a baby, just want to have a child. But when we come to a place where we are very informed of the parameters that we need, we want to know the language, the culture, but those things are a bit shaky, because wherever you born a child, the child plays the culture of that place. So all of these things is a very difficult place for women. They have to how do they think through these things? Belief system, is the person Igbo, and these things are not important. If we take the child to China, it's going to speak Chinese and pick their culture. So all of these things really matter to women. But as much as possible, the center who is recruiting these donors will get as much profile. But most importantly, you want to get the medical history of these donors. You want to be sure that if you're going to having to do this thing for somebody, you have to be sure that you are healthy as a person. You are willing to go through the process. Of course, do it if you're going to be a non-donor to a friend, to one sister, to a cousin, to someone that that I think this is something you can do and she's happy to have you as a donor. You would, want to give as much details as possible. You have to open your life out to say, this is me, and then the person is open to having it. Like we said, it's quite a courageous thing to do. Those who go through it are very wonderful people, to be honest. So that's basically one of the overview why people would need donated eggs. So these kind of women who have these challenges, before they can have a child, they will need another woman to donate to her. But let me just put it also out there that, like we spoke last week, a woman's fertility is basically dependent on her age. Age is a very major factor in donating eggs. So a woman who is about 35 and above is very tricky that they probably will allow her to donate. Of course, she may be eligible. I haven't checked all her parameters, her hormonal records, and she's willing to have it. It's fine. She may actually be, she's done, she's completed her family. She's not planning to have any child again. It's possible. But a woman is planning to have a child who hasn't had any child before and she's 35. You may want to allow her, ethics will allow her to have for herself before giving to somebody else, because there's going to be a conflict when somebody else has a donated egg from her and then she's not able to have for herself. She probably won't want to go for that one, because we are all humans. Okay, so it's very important that the center, we're going to talk about things you need to know when you want to do these things, either egg donation or egg freezing. So just before we continue to fertility preservation and egg freezing, does anybody have any questions at this point? There's just a lot of ethics involved in egg donation. In some countries, it must be known. It cannot be anonymous. You must know your donor. You must have a relationship with your donor, like know the person one-on-one and have a link. And you can't even pay your donor, like give you money. No, it has to be your expenses that you have covered. So it makes it more noble, and person is really willing to do it, and of course going to sign the documents that this child cannot be, the child is not legally hers. So a recipient becomes the legal parent of the child from the offspring of an egg donation. So whoever receives an egg from a donor becomes the legal parent, not the donor. The donor relinquishes all rights to the child. All rights to the child is linked by the donor. She doesn't have any right to the child. Of course, the donor has a right at some age to know who the genetic parent is. I think about 18, they're about 16, to know who the genetic parent is. But the donor has no right to claim, has no claims over the child. For some people, back in Nigeria, we don't have as much laws as regards donors, but most of them do anonymous. They don't want to know anything. They don't want anybody chasing them. They don't want to chase anybody. They just want to move on. Okay, we have a question from Modipe Ajayi. Do you want to unmute her so she can ask a question?
Yeah, my question is, if, for example, you're looking at a country like Nigeria where anything goes, what would you suggest? Because one of the issues that I have with Nigeria is, because of the anything goes, how can you trust that the bank that you're using, they've done the due diligence to check properly that the donor egg that they're going to give you is right for you? Or how can a person like you that you want to get the donor egg, what checks do you need to do, apart from for me personally, I think that the medical history is the key thing. You've said it all, that things like languages, IQ. I'm also particular about IQ, but like you said, you can always develop that depending on the environment the child grows up and the opportunity that is open to the child. But the key thing for me is medicals, and I always worry about Nigeria that I hope they're not picking one mad person from the streets and just giving them money and say, okay, and because of the economic situation in Nigeria, people would do anything for money. So as somebody that is seeking that kind of services, because I see that, what are the things that we need to consider, and
it depends on thank you very much. That's a very good question. And that's one of the questions I hear from most of the clients I have. What test have you done? Have you screened? And they list a whole lot of tests of the world, and they had the IQs and the heights and the university graduates and the long legs. And I'm like, madam, let's be real. Okay, so I think that most centers would ask detailed questions. Most centers I know. Now, most importantly, you have to be sure of the HIV status and all of that. That's a serious deal. HIV, hepatitis B, you want to be sure that she doesn't have any venereal disease. Now, when the history taking is a very tricky thing. Okay, you want to ask a young lady to say, do you have madness in your family? Or is there anybody in the family and everything? Because they are very clear that anything that goes away from anything I say that I mentioned here can be used against them. So they are very smart as well. So the tracing is quite difficult. In developed world, you can easily trace. You can check all the records, you can figure it out. You can find out and you can do a tracing. But in Nigeria, it's very difficult. Whatever they tell you, you will take. They will tell you, no, 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 no. Now it's left to the discretion of the managing team. The donor doesn't pass through only the doctors, it passes through everybody, passes through a counselor, passes through a nurse, passes through the sonographer, passes through. So everybody is having a check and say, is this person okay or not okay? The most important person is the donor recruiter who can see, of course, knows the recipient, is an anonymous donation, and knows the donor. First of all, you want to be sure of matches, skin, of course, skin color, very important, eye color, height. Those are genetic things that you don't want to meet, because you are a very tall woman and then you have a donor who is short. You can't explain that. What if donor picks what if the child you're about to be born picks a short? You can't match it. Blood group and genotype, that must match. That is a must. And then when you have to ask questions about, does anybody have epilepsy? Those deep medical issues, some of them don't even know. And then they can't even trace. And that's one of the challenges that we have in the country, not because they don't want to take all the histories, or they won't, it's not readily available. And now when you talk about the test, maybe you want to do a cytomegalovirus, a cystic fibrosis, or the sophisticated test, it makes the donation process longer, and it makes the waiting list for a recipient longer. And it makes it more expensive. Yes, would you say if it's more expensive, you rather go for it? So that's where the decision of a center would come in, to say, will we stick for quality or we'll just do the minimum requirements? So that's where you have to really go to when you are picking a center to have your donation or being a recipient, these are the questions you have to ask to say, what are the extent that you go? If you compare the cost, that may give you an idea of how much they have put into to recruit their donors and what kind of tests they do. What kind of jobs do the donors do? What kind of environment do they live in? Do they go and do a check and find out where they live? Do they go and find out how their environment is? Because that will determine a whole lot of things to who they are. I don't know if I've been able to answer your questions, because details of medical history, yes, they will take it, but how can you even verify that what the donor is telling you is true? And that's a challenge. You really can't say no epilepsy, no madness, no, everything is no. And then something springs up sometime when the child is about 10, 11, and you're wondering, oh my God, where's this coming from? So those are the risks involved in these things. Because here in the UK, they will do genetic testing. They don't even want to be sure if the donor is even the gender of the donor is the gender of the donor, first of all. Is it 46 chromosome? Is it X, Y, or X? You have to be sure of everything, and the genetic testing and all there. So I think sometimes, most of the time, is the challenges of the health structure, and then you are only dependent on what the donor will tell you. And there's really not much one can do. And of course, the center, what's the extent at which they go? The center-based, really, for the extent at which they go. But of course, height, physical features that looks more like the recipient is definitely considered. Hair color, eye color, skin color, very key. Those things are very key, of course. And then, of course, the infections, HIV, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, syphilis, gonorrhea, those basic tests, yes, they're done. Did I answer your question, Mudupe?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think you're right. It's a difficult one because of the kind of country it is. Yeah, it's a risk that one has to take, basically.
Can I just make a comment about that? And that is, within reason, I think one would need to ask all the right questions, like Busolami has said. And she has given us an idea of the kind of things to ask, like the reputation of the center, the kind of things they do. But at the same time, one also knows that even when we have our own children, things happen to them that we don't know about, that has no trace. Do you understand? So in reality, there are no perfect parents and there are no perfect children. I just wanted to put that out there, that even if we had our own children, things can happen. But because this is a check and balance, we can still ask the right questions. But of course, asking the right questions comes at the risk of, are you telling me the truth or you are not telling me the truth? Or do you even know or you don't know? Because there's no issue of truth in what you don't even know at all. And that is true, because even some people are even adopted. And now they are now donors. So they don't, in short, they don't have any history about where they are from as well, but it's something that they're happy to do. So these are some of the things that are out there that are not so clear cut. But also, if you're willing to do something, then your heart has to be in it. Otherwise, your body is going to repel it. Your system is going to repel it.
Absolutely.
It's going to show on your face that you don't like this baby in you. And when the baby is born, it's going to show as well to the child and to other people. So it's not something that should be taken lightly. Some people have to decide that I can do this, or they have to decide like, I cannot do this. And there's no right or wrong answer in that sense.
Thank you very much. Also to add, that your body would accept what it will accept. And that's true, because our minds are very, very powerful. I met a woman, and then she said that she cannot take donor egg. And of course, her husband pushed her, and she got to the point, and she just said, this is not going to work. She was so clear, because she knows that she can't do it. Truly, truly, she had the best wicked embryo like that. She to work everything okay. She was not surprised. And I learned a lesson that your mind and what you would accept is very powerful. If you have not accepted the donor oocytes one wants to receive, but nothing can happen. And vice versa for women who have to use donor sperms as well. And they're just looking at the sperm, it's looking very funny to them for no reason that they have been able to pick up on their own, or they just have questions that have not been answered by anybody. And it's a valid question to them, may not be a valid question to the medical team, but to them it's valid, and they're still looking for answers. They may never get pregnant with that set of sperms, except it's accepted. So this is coming to, giving information in terms of acceptance to say, okay, what are the important things, the most important things you must look out for? What are the risks that you're willing to take? What's the length you're willing to go? Like President Child just said, there are many questions we can even answer. Even our great-grandparents, how many of the histories do we know? We don't know much. But of course, you don't want to take a risk that is right in front of you that you have the information about. But as much as possible, if this is a place where you are and you want to make a decision, ask questions, and then take the courageous step. For someone to be courageous enough to donate eggs, there's a courage to say, fine, we'll do this. Yeah. Thank you. Do we have any more questions before we move to the freezing part, which is the most interesting part?
No more
for me, I think.
right now.
All right, so we're going to be talking about the egg freezing. I think before then, I want us to watch a short video. And so we just give it a serious overview before then we go on. Just give me a minute while I stop sharing the screen, and then I share the video. Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. Can you hear Rosie?
Reproductive technique
Yes.
allows a woman to preserve her eggs for later use. One of the reasons a woman may opt for egg freezing is to preserve her fertility after being diagnosed with cancer. Various cancers and their treatments can adversely affect a woman's chances of conceiving. Effects of cancer treatment on fertility. Cancer and the associated treatments can stop the production of certain hormones, dramatically reducing your supply of eggs, or may damage reproductive organs such as the ovaries, fallopian tubes, and uterus, thereby affecting fertility and leading to early menopause. Cancer treatment, including chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and surgery, cancer-affected reproductive organ is removed, can lead to infertility. Indications. Egg freezing may be considered if you have been diagnosed with cancer and have 2 to 6 weeks time before you begin treatment, family history or risk of early menopause, genetic conditions such as BRCA mutations, where ovarian removal is recommended, severe endometriosis. Egg freezing is also considered for women who wish to delay pregnancy for reasons of concentrating on their career, education, and other personal goals. It may be opted by those who have a religious objection with regard to embryo freezing, and for couples undergoing fertility treatment in which the male partner is unable to provide sufficient sperm on the day of retrieval. Procedure. Egg freezing involves 3 primary steps: induction of ovulation, retrieval of the eggs, freezing. Your doctor first stimulates the ovaries by injecting synthetic hormones to boost the production of multiple eggs. Transvaginal ultrasound aspiration, a minor surgical procedure, is performed under sedation to remove the eggs from the ovaries. A needle is guided through the vagina with an ultrasound probe, and the eggs are removed with the help of a suction device attached to the needle. Soon after collection, the unfertilized eggs are frozen at sub-zero temperatures with a slow freeze, vitrification, or cryoprotectants to avoid the formation of ice crystals. Eggs can be stored for up to 10 years. When the eggs are required, the frozen eggs are thawed and allowed to fertilize with the sperm in the lab, or sperm is directly injected into the egg via an intracytoplasmic sperm injection, ICSI procedure, and implanted via an in vitro fertilization, IVF, in the womb. Advantages and disadvantages. Egg freezing helps preserve fertility until you are healthy enough or ready to conceive. The advantage of egg freezing, especially in young women, is the frozen egg retains the quality of eggs produced at a younger age, even while your age continues to advance. Disadvantages of egg freezing include expensive procedure, can delay cancer treatment, and may not be an option for all women. Some eggs may not survive the egg process of freezing and thawing. This affects the number of cycles of IVF. Risks and complications. As with any procedure, egg freezing may involve certain risks and complications, which include bloating, vomiting, infection, mild abdominal pain, nausea, diarrhea, bleeding, rapid weight gain, difficulty breathing, emotional disappointment with failure of the treatment. Egg freezing may be a ray of hope for women diagnosed with cancer or other medical conditions that affect their ability to conceive. It provides the potential to conceive even after the toxic effects of the disease and its treatment are completed. However, it is not a guarantee for successful pregnancy, as it still involves certain risks. Please talk to your doctor to learn whether this procedure is right for you.
Thank you very much. So I'm just going to continue to share my slide. Okay, can you see my slide now?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's just an overview of egg freezing. Now, we've been able to see why people, the initial reason why people freeze their eggs, because they're going for some chemotherapy. And in the ancient times, and women going for war, and when they come back, they are maimed and they want to have children. But in these recent times, those that have going for cancer treatments, they have to preserve their eggs so that by the time they're done with chemotherapy and then they're fine, they can then think of having children with their eggs. Okay, so that's basically one of the reasons. But of course, there are many social reasons as well. I mean, a woman who is not ready to have a child, who is not ready to have a child yet, can go ahead and freeze her eggs, and then when she's ready, at a time, she can use the eggs. While even her age is advancing, the egg remains at the age where it was frozen. So if she froze her eggs when she was 23, for example, and then she's 43, coming back 10 years time to have a baby, the egg is 23 years old and is as viable as the 23-year-old egg. So as we grow older, our eggs grow older as well. For me, I mean, the way it is presented, the way it's shown to women is, I think, is a gift, because a way not to feel cheated. Like, you came in late and then you're coming to have a baby and it's all stories one is hearing. So it's such a good therapy if you think that's what you want to do and that's what is ideal to do for you. If that's what you want to do, please go for it. So like we watched in the video, is a medical technology that extracts the woman's egg out of her body and freeze through vitrification process, and you can store it for as long as 10 years. This approach is also to ensure that the eggs are in good quality and a perfect age and can be used when they want to use it. The best age that is suitable for freezing eggs is when a woman is not above 35. A 35-year-old woman loses her fertility very, very quickly. Loses her fertility very, very quickly. And then she may not be able to get as many eggs as she would need when she needs it. So it's very important that a decision for egg freezing is done early. Like the very first speaker spoke, Modipe said that this is a younger person who is 20 or 19. They know these things. They're better able to plan their lives better. I know that, okay, maybe it's not happening early, so let me do this and keep it and then have that freedom to do whatever they want to do. Okay, so it's mostly preferred for future use. So like we had watched in the video, why do you want to freeze? Of course, an alternative of cancer treatment, and unmarried women want to delay having a baby later in life. So this is where we are going to have our consideration and more of our discussions. Things to consider when freezing or when donating eggs. First of all, a good reproductive facility that you can trust. Very important. You must be able to have done your research well, look at the centers you have, read their reviews, and then, if possible, have a consultation and have a tour to see what do they have, what do they base their treatment and their services on. Is it on quality? Is it on money? Is it on there's this word, is it on bonanzas? Yes, I need to use the word because everybody come, we are doing this, come and do. Is it on that? What is their basis for treating their patients? And then can you trust them? Because there are many things, you don't see the eggs they're going to freeze for you. You don't even see where they vitrify them, except to take a tour. You don't even see anything. All you see and all you know is the injections they are taking and how you're feeling, and even the side effects. And all you see is the money you pay, because they're not cheap, they're kind of pricey. And then you also want to consider your age. At what age are you going for these things, and what is the percentage of retrieving the eggs back? So let me just put this out there that it's the eggs are not like sperms that are easily retrievable. Eggs are very water-based. So a woman who freezes 25 eggs, by the time she's going to retrieve it back, she won't get 25 eggs back. Probably get the best can get about 10, 15, depending on the rates of the clinic. And it's all over the world. It's not as if they have a bad review, but eggs are not retrieved as much. And the younger the woman is, the more retrievable the eggs can be. And sometimes none is retrieved. So a woman who freezes 5 eggs, she may not get anything back. A woman who freezes 5 eggs, probably she's going at the age of 37 or 38. You're not expecting that to happen. So she will want to consider doing multiple cycles to have a lot more that she can freeze. And another reason why what you consider when you want to go for either donated eggs or donating eggs or freezing eggs is a mental and emotional health. It's very important that you have the grit, you have the mental strength and the emotional capacity to go through this process. And it's very important that the clinic offers you counseling. Offered counseling on what you're about to do. It's called implication counseling. Someone must speak with you. Fine. Say, I don't want counseling. I'm good. I'm fine. Most people decline counseling. It's fine to decline, but you must be offered by the clinic to make you understand the extent that you not even thought about, the support you would need going through this process. Who is going to bring you? What if you fall in? What if you're stranded? You didn't know you're going to spend some money, because in all of these things, there's some hidden costs that you may think initially you may not need by the doctor's consultation, but along the line, the need will come up and you may have to pay for the services. They have not scammed you. You just found out that something has happened that you may need this kind of service. And there's some costs that you didn't even plan for that may come up along the line. So it's very important that you have the support mentally, emotionally, and of course, financial support too. And then lastly, your medical state, your health state. Are you able to do this at this time? Sometimes our health may not allow us to do what we want to do when we want to do it. They may even require you to get a letter from your managing physician first before you can have a process. They're not being nasty. They don't want to delay you. Just want to be sure that you are fine. And it happens even in Nigeria as well. The treating doctor will want to be sure that you are okay and won't encounter any problems along the way. The side effect of the drugs will make your comorbid medical diagnosis to hinder you or to make your process worse or to make side effects worse. So all of these things are things that is going to be considered in the process. So for anyone that you know that wants to have these things, it's very important to give them these ideas to say these are the things you need to look out for. Make sure you trust the clinic. Make sure you are sure that, you can't trust people 100%. Always going to be taking care of your gametes. You must be able to have a level of trust in their competence, their professionalism, and their services before you can put your money down and before you can go the long haul with them. And if they're going to freeze your gametes for 10 years, are they going to still be in existence in the next 10 years? So that when you now want to need it, you're not going to having to go to court and then you're looking for your gametes everywhere in the world. So it's very important. What are the terms of renewal of your contract or of your freezing terms, so that you put those structures in place and it's an automated thing. You're not having to worry every year, I'm paying this. Are you going to pay bulk money, or they will remind you every year to pay your renewal of your freezing costs? What's the structure? Does it work for you? Those are things you must consider. So you are not, it's like you're putting your money in a fixed deposit, or you're investing your money. Your mind is there, your heart is there. Your gametes are like your body is there. It's very important to you. So there are things you must consider. What are the structures they have in place so that what the plans you have in the next 10 years, when you get there, or the next 5 years, or the next 2 years, when you get it, you're not worried. You're not confused about what is going to happen. For women who are not sure if that's what they should do, I think they should have a consultation with their fertility doctor to give them more information, because sometimes some men have some religious reasons as to why this may not be what they want to do, And why are you doing what you're doing? Is it because of fear that a man will never come, or because of fear that you never have a child? What are the reasons? Because your reasons are very important. If you don't have a strong reason, along the way, you may not be able to complete the cycle, to be a terminated cycle, and you'll have wasted time, energy, effort, and even money. All right. And then it's very important that you are well informed in that regard. It's very important that you have a plan, where we don't all have things figured out, yes, but we must, as humans, as individuals, we must be informed. And then if we are very well informed, we'll make better decisions. So that's what I want to open the floor to questions, because I know that some people know somebody knows somebody that knows somebody that's done this before. You're probably thinking, should I do it? Should I not do it? Is it worth the money? You don't have to pay like 5 million to something like this. Is it a good investment? Do you know somebody who has done it? It's possible in Nigeria, you may not know somebody has done it, because Was it this popular 5 years ago? Was it this popular 10 years ago? And what was the outcome? You may not be to find someone who has gone through the process and used their own eggs for their own self, and then what was the outcome? Did they eventually get pregnant? Did it work for them? So we may not have that data readily available, but the clinic may have. Of course, if you can trust that the data is true, that what they've said is actually what has happened, you may be able to put your right foot forward and go for it. But I just want us to have questions. And then if anybody has any more additions, because I know that there are medical people here who've been exposed to things like this, and then we want to have one or two things to add before we take all the questions. Yeah. Well, let's take questions first. Does anyone have any question?
Thank you very much. Do you want to come back to the screen? Because you still have Q&A here.
Yeah, it's Q&A. So let's go back to the screen. Yeah.
No, as in stop sharing so that we can see you. Let me join you so that you're not feeling lonely there.
That's fine.
Okay. We have one hand up. Please feel free to ask your questions. I'm sure Busolami will be able to do justice to them. And if you have a comment, please raise your hand as well. I know some people joined us along the line, but still ask your questions or your comments. I'm sure it will be helpful to one or two people. Thank you. I think we can take Stamodupe Ajayi. Oh, looks like she's logged out. That must be her network because I saw her hand up a minute ago. She'll probably come back. Yeah. She'll probably come back in. Saw her hand up. Okay. I don't know whether anyone has a comment or a question. Dr. Anjori, Dr. Adiroyeje, do you have a question, a comment? Let's hear from the men. Okay, she's back. We are having some questions, but Stadupa is back. Please unmute yourself. You can speak. You're the only one whose hand is raised.
My comment is, it's also for me. I also think that for couple who are considering egg freezing, and you have to. It's very, very important for the husband and wife to be on the same page. Because it's one thing that a woman is like eager to have a child and want to go through the process. Is your husband on that same page with you? Because I've seen situations that couple are not on the same page, and I've seen situations whereby the egg is frozen and along the line the couple separated, and then it now became an issue, and the husband was like, you cannot use my sperm, you cannot use, you can't use what was being frozen. So it's I mean, it's very important that that's part of the consideration in the whole process, apart from that emotional. And I think a lot of people don't think about the emotional side of things as well. And I feel like we as Africans, our culture don't help as well. So part of, I don't know what counseling, what the kind of thing that goes on in the counseling, but I think that's part of, I think, what should be covered as well. And people should be prepared to just for that emotional journey, because anything can happen, and just be strong for each other. And most importantly, you have to be sure that you're both on the same page, because if anything happens, then there's the issue of, can you go ahead to use what's been frozen or not? That's my comment.
Thank you very much, Modupe Ajayi. Very, very, very super question. Like I said, every woman, every couple going through any form of assisted reproduction, be it donation, be it egg freezing, be it sperm freezing, be it IVF, be it genetic, whatever it is, they must have implication counseling, because they will have no idea of, they definitely would have no idea of the implication of what you're doing. And the clinic is responsible for that. During these processes, there are usually consent forms to be signed. These consent forms are very detailed, very funny enough. As I'm African, I'm Nigerian, we don't read as much. We don't read in between, and we don't comb it properly, and we just, and they sign easily that way. So, for example, when one is signing consent for egg freezing, or maybe or egg freezing, they'll ask you, if you die, what should we do with the eggs? Very difficult question to answer. If you become mentally incapacitated, what do you do with the eggs? And this is not in the UK, this is Nigeria. This is not UK. These questions are asked in Nigeria. If you're married, if you separate from your husband or your spouse, what would we do with the embryos? Two of you have to decide. Should we throw them away? Should it be used for research? Or should it be given to any of the parties? Both of you will agree. Whatever is written there, what they're going to do. They just go and pick out the consent form and open it and say, this is what you said. In case of death of any of the parties, what do you do? If a clinic does not have such a consent form, you have to think well and ask them, so if this possible, nobody prays for it, but nobody can ask that question. It's not something you readily think about. Well, I mean, this is why we're having things like this, to always to know what exactly should you be asking? What kind of questions should you be asking? So in a woman was frozen her eggs. So when the woman dies, when she's incapacitated, or does she want to will the eggs to somebody else? Even in embryo, when you're for embryo freezing, do you want to, are you open to using the embryo for even research? Because if they want to use your embryo for testing to learn, they must ask you first. It's not because it's in their custody, they can just pick it and use, because this embryo is not good. We are going to discard anyways. We can use it to learn. No, it's illegal. You must ask the couple, can we use it? It's not good though. We're going to trade away, but can we use it? It's illegal. So those things are very important things that must be noted. So if at some point a couple divorces or separates and there is no consent on ground, the clinic is liable because they should have taken that consent early. That time they are going to be asking them is too late. If a man has signed to say, in case he dies or in case they separate, his wife can use the garments, and he changes his mind after they have separated, he can't change his mind because he's written it down. That consent was not withdrawn before the event happened. So it's too late. The woman is going to win the case because you signed it, both of us agreed. So you can't come after, because you do not even come to withdraw the consent to say, this consent I gave you, the thing has not happened, so I want to reverse it. No, it can't be done anymore because it's too late. If you take it to the court, that document is valid and the woman will win the case because nothing has happened before that, and now it has happened now. She wants the embryo, she can choose to have it if she decides to. I remember a case of a man who froze his sperms because he had some issues. Just put a case in point, froze his sperms and he died. And the family wanted to take the sperm. And we said, no problem. We can't even remember the man's face. So we went to the archive and found the consent form. The man signed. And he said he wanted the sperm given to his first wife. That was not even in the picture. That was strange. It was so, we were all blown away. And the first wife she didn't even check for it. So the family couldn't get it because the owner is written there. And it's just like a will. What will I do with my property when I die? And it's the responsibility of the clinic and the counseling team to figure that out. So these are the things you want to check for. But how robust is the counseling? How robust is the consenting? How robust is the information they give you? And sometimes the clinic may not even be that established to know, but you must bring it up because reproduction and reproductive health is a collaborative approach. It's not I tell you, you do it. It's we are agreeing, we are on a journey to what I want. So you have your input to make. So if you have such a thing, you may bring it up to your clinic and they will draw up a consent for that for you. And then you and your partner or your spouse will sign it and it's binding. Of course, you can withdraw a consent at any time. You will let them know that you are withdrawing the consent and you must put it in writing, but not saying anything, not withdrawing, and then coming afterwards is late because the event has already occurred. The separation has happened or the divorce has happened or the death has happened. It's too late. So it's the clinic that does that work.
Thank you.
I don't know if I'm waiting for your question. Yeah, Modupe.
Yes, you have. And I have another question with regards to UK. So in UK, because I've had this situation where I've gone to fertility clinic and the doctor was like, oh, so you're at this age now, you need an egg donor, come back with your egg donor. And I'm like, where do I find one? So what information is out there in terms of, egg donor in UK, or where you can go to, or things like that?
In the UK, the egg donation process is a non-anonymous. You must know your donor. And the clinic doesn't involve themselves in it. They just step back, like they just step back like that. They just tell you go and bring your donor. And another thing is you could use egg banks. So they want you to go do that research yourself. They don't want to be involved, But if they have the services or they have an egg bank, they will tell you, oh, we have egg banks. So do you want to go and see our profile? They would offer you, but they don't have, they just leave you there. Not because they're uninterested, but like I said earlier, it's collaborative. So they're not going to spoon feed you in that sense. They expect you to go do your research to say you want to, for example, you want to supermarket, you want to buy something, you go to where you want to buy it and you buy it. They're not being mean. They just want you to, they just know that it's something you need and you will find it. Of course, you can now say, where would I find it? Other people like to speak with, they say, well, we'll ask somebody to get back to, probably the embryologists, those who have been shipping sperms or eggs from different banks. They may have one or two. They may say, okay, go to them. This is their name. Find them online. Go to them. Figure out what it is they would need. Contact them. Give them a call. Send them an email, and then you start that conversation with them. Because having to ship sperms and eggs from different clinics requires licenses, requires relationships. So it's quite a process that takes a while, like 6 weeks or 8 weeks for them to get it done. Okay, so anyone they have a ready license with them, we just advise you to go. So we need to ask them and say, who do I speak with? Is there somebody that can help out, or what do you think? They just give you faint ideas. Pick those faint ideas and work with it. Really pick them and work with it. And you can also go online and check. They're all there, but sometimes it may be difficult to get. In the UK, people have challenges having to get donors because they have to find a clinic. But yeah, I know few people have to go out of their way to find donors. So you have to do banks if you need to do banks. That's the benefit that Home has. Home gives you the opportunity to do an anonymous donor. But of course, what's the extent of their screenings? That can be a challenge as well. So it's just weighing the options, basically. But there are banks, egg banks, but you have to ship them, having to ship them in between. Those things happen, but you have to reach out to them, call their number, send them an email, they'll respond to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the questions and for the answers. I think someone put a question in the chat box. What is the benefit of egg freezing? I think she's one of those that came in late, because that was said in one of the slides. I'm sure Busolame won't mind running through that again. If you have any comments or questions, please raise your hand or type into the chat box if you're unable to. I'm sure what you know or your questions are going to help us have a more robust discussion and help somebody. Okay, but we'll be rounding up in about 15 minutes anyway.
Okay, so benefit of egg freezing, of course, for you to be able to store your gametes for future use. For those that have cancer, I don't think this person has cancer, definitely, but helps them to preserve your fertility. You're not ready to have a child, you're not ready to get married, for many reasons, career reasons, for life goals, you want to preserve your fertility because the eggs are going to be as young as you are now, and they want to just keep that. So you're not surprised or you're not taking unawares when you are now ready mentally, emotionally, financially, in every way to have a child. So to delay childbearing, that's one of the benefits. Basically for women, that's the benefit, so you don't feel cheated when it's that time. Also for some genetic, if you want to egg freezing for those who are going to, for egg donation, for those who have genetic issues and they want to use another person's eggs, yes, those who are frozen their eggs, they can always give, or a will, or that you can always buy from banks, basically. So I think that's basically one of the benefits of egg freezing for the person who asks the questions.
I just want to slot in the word that you've used about not feeling cheated. Maybe we should be careful about that, because having a pregnancy, whether it is your egg or it is not your egg, is a gift, and it does not even always happen, whether with your egg or with another person's egg. Either way, it is still a gift. So I don't think there's a reason to feel cheated. If one is able to achieve a pregnancy, even with a donor egg, it is a gift. It's not a reason to feel cheated or to feel inferior in any way. We have a question. I hope Busalami agrees with me.
Yeah, but it's a feeling that people have, and people's feelings or how they feel is based on many reasons. Like, what have I done? Those kind of they don't feel as if they've been able to cover every area. They didn't cover that part of their lives. So it's a feeling. And of course, you can always kill the feeling that you didn't do anything bad. It's just that area wasn't just resolved, and then there are alternatives for you, basically. So yeah.
Okay. We have a question from Titi here. She says, is it advisable for a 40-year-old woman to freeze her eggs if she has not had a baby before? I think Busalami has answered that question on one of the slides about it's advisable before 35. You still want to shed more light on that?
Yeah, it's clear. It's as clear as it is advisable before 35, because at 35, a woman's reproductive capacity begins to drop very sharply, and is the best thing to do is to take the best opportunity to start to have a child then. But of course, you're not forcing it because you're 35, 36, you have to have a child. No. You don't have to be in that. But if you want to freeze at that, you may have to do multiple cycles so you can gather more. And of course, that'll be more expensive and a lot of hormones to your body at that age of yours. So like the Modipe mentioned earlier, if this information had come in earlier, probably 20 years before now, the decision will have been made before 40. And that's what we don't want to happen again, that this time we're just hearing an information, and can we make a decision that this is not too late? Should the younger people, the 19-year-olds, the 18-year-olds, the 17-year-olds, should they be hearing this information now? So they can plan and think that, okay, when I get to this age, this is what I will do. And when they work, they know they will save their money, they know the cost, and they are better prepared, and they better make decisions. So a 40-year-old man, to be honest, no doctor will ask you to freeze your eggs. They will say you should consider having a baby. And if you're not applying to have a baby, when you want to have a baby, maybe like 6 years or 3 years time from when you're 40, would you be open to using an egg donor? Because this is what may likely happen. It's science, it's how the body happens. So and probably to educate more about a woman's reproductive health, a woman's how the reproduction of a woman happens, so that you're ready. And of course, you could have some implication counseling regarding that as well, so you are better prepared on having a child if you are ready for it.
Okay, thank you very much for that. That said, there are people that have children into their 50s,
yeah.
And she's mentioned something about premature menopause. Many times that runs in families. So if your grandmother was menstruating into her 50s, your mom was menstruating into her 50s, maybe until proven otherwise, you might do the same, actually. So you might not be someone who would be worried about premature menopause. Or if someone's mother stopped at 35, the grandmother stopped at 35, or your auntie stopped at 35, then that person might have a history of premature menopause. So that might be something that a woman wants to think about or take into cognizance. But yes, it just means that there are options, there are things to think about. I think the important points are, don't feel pressured to do something, but know that this is available. Not everybody that freezes eggs has a viable pregnancy from all of them at the end of time. It's just an extra option to consider. It is not free. It costs money. It costs money to do it, to refresh it annually, as well as the initial payment. But it's helpful to know that is an option that is available. And we must also slot in that beyond the initial part of having a child, the more important part is being a parent to the child, which involves training, which is a lifetime commitment. And are we in a place where we are ready for that kind of commitment? Those are also very important decisions to also think about. I don't know whether anyone also has another comment at this point that you want to share with us, or whether Solami or someone else has a comment right now. Thank you, Stadupa. You are the star questioner of today. Let's hear you again.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned beyond having the child. It's important to be a parent to the child. I think that's another important point that people need to consider when they go with the option of a donor egg, because there may come to a point in the child's life that you may need to reveal to the child how the child was conceived.
Yeah.
And then the child may want to, depending on how the child is, if the child has that kind of curious nature, they may want to know more details about who the biological, who the donor is. So are you ready as a parent? Are you ready for that scenario? So those are the kind of things that people also need to think about. So it's not just thinking about, oh, now I want a child, what happens beyond that process? It's very, very important as well. How are you going to cope emotionally? How are you going to be able to support the child? And how are you going to even be able to support yourself? Because I feel like, why is this child wanting to know where they're from originally? So those are the kind of things that, you as a person thinking of going through that route, you have to think far and beyond, okay, this is the path that I want to go. You have to think about the future as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for mentioning that, Muzube, because in the UK, when the child is 16 or 18 thereabout, has a right to know. In fact, contact the HFA to say, can you provide records of who this person is, who the genetic parent is? And the child has a right to know. He's not even going to ask the parent. The parent is not even given information, can go to the governing body and make it very clear over there. But for in Nigeria, because it's non-anonymous, people don't want stories. They don't want to, the ladies don't even want to be looked for. They don't even want to give any information. They don't want anybody chasing them. They don't want to chase anybody. They just want to live their lives and nobody asking information, and makes it more difficult to trace. The only person that can give the information is the clinic, and they don't assign non-anonymity. You cannot break that. She has a right. She said, I don't want anybody to look for me. You can't break it. You can't even tell the name. You can't even, the least you can probably, she would give you baby picture and that's it. So you're in between. But a parent who's going to reveal to the child, you reveal as much as you have, information that you have honestly and clearly. So you want to keep documents to say, I signed this document, but the donor was not willing to open it up. And you are honest and you are open. A child can see through you and know how honest you are and say, no, I don't have information. I don't even have the name because this person signed that I don't want to be known. Has given me a gift that a gift that you can't, every day of your life, you're happy because you are seeing the child. But this is all I have. And this is all I know. Once you open as much as you know, and leave the rest, there's no, except you are keeping something else. And we don't have that record. If we did, it would have been much more easier for you to deal with. But this is all I have. These are the papers. If you want to go to the clinic, if they will tell you, fine, you can go there. This is the address. They still exist. You can find them. But this is what I know. If you want us to go together, I can take you there. If the doctor is still alive, he has not died, or the place is still there, he has not left the country, just go and do what you know how to do, what is honest with child ask you. Because children that are coming these days, they are very inquisitive because they know that this doesn't exist. The children that are born from donor sperms will want to find their paternity. How would we figure out that? And the clinic has records, and they will come to the clinic and they will find out, and we must give them. So these things are going to be happening, and we have to make up our minds to be honest and open, because the child has a right to know where genetically he or she is from. So we must be honest and open as much all the information that we have and give it to the child.
I must also add that we have to, apart from the clinic, We should also have clinicians that we know to be honest, have integrity, and trustworthy. There has been some record of not many, just one in the US, one in Europe, one in that inseminated women with their own
sperm.
Yes, which was a very ignoble thing to do. And one of them, unfortunately, did not even get convicted because there were no laws stopping that kind of behavior. But now it is against the law for you to do that kind of thing without the client being aware of what is going on. So yes, there has to be a background check on the facility, and if it is a sole provider, on the clinician concerned, to be sure that they are people of integrity that will not lie or do something like that. Are you aware of that? Of course, Busola will be aware of that as part of the history.
Sure. Sure.
But yes, artificial reproduction, assisted reproduction is something that has helped so many people and given a lot of people a ray of hope. And it works for quite a number of people, and it's something that we should be grateful for. And children are a gift, and we would always appreciate them as such. As I said, beyond giving birth to them, the training them is the work in which even parents need the help of God to do that adequately in the world we live in. Yes, so big thank you to Busolami for chairing this session again and for doing it so well, articulately. That's one of the feedback I have got. Thank you for that. Our next topic is going to be on surrogacy, which is also something that is very topical. So we're talking, yes, quite topical. Not everybody agrees with it, but some people do that. You might be on either side of the divide. And this is not to say it is good or it is bad. It's for you to be aware that these kind of things go on in our world. Okay, so invite somebody. I guess the knowledge would be useful to one or more people that you already know about. I think someone has specifically mentioned today about people not knowing the emotional input that goes into IVF, that goes into egg freezing and egg donation. And that's very important that we have adequate support when we're trying to go through these processes. And if you're above 40, like myself, we keep holding on to the everlasting arms and trusting that we are children of Sarah and miracles are going to happen. Yeah, so stay strong, stay happy, because there's no freezing at this point. Okay, any other person have a question or comment before we sign out? Okay. All right. So thank you very much. Please invite somebody. This is going to go on for the next 6 weeks. We have quite a number of topics coming up. Surrogacy. After that, we are having sperm banking and what makes good sperm. After that, we are having miscarriages and when does life begin. So we have quite a number of interesting topics coming up. We're going to talk foster parenting. Then we're going to talk about adoption, which is going to be a discussion, general discussion, where we're all going to talk about our views about adoption and how it is across different continents. And then we are going to talk about elective lone parenting and single parenting. These are also topical issues, and we all should be aware about it. I guess at this point of time, with so much information, we can't afford to bury our heads in the sand and act like we don't know what is going on when it's already happening all around us. So thank you very much, Busolami. We are looking forward to hearing from you again next week. Warm regards to your hubby. He's taking very good care of you, we can see.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you for your time. Thank you for inviting me.
It's our pleasure. We are making use of our great resources. Thank you so much. And thank you for being a wonderful audience. Thank you all.